Salvador.
Salvador?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
I'm
meet you.
Andres.
Andres, nice to meet you.
Welcome. Hey Ruth, I see you've been on the bootcamp. Essentially because we're doing the event live, I'll be mostly focusing on the room. So actually I should type this up. But you're more than welcome to listen and watch. Welcome in.
The talks are going to be recorded, the meeting?
So the meetings are being, oh, I actually forgot about that. The meetings will be recorded, but the intention is that they'll be published later on after the bootcamp.
Okay.
So in like January or February.
Okay.
Actually, no, that's not true because they're getting posted by Capital Factory. So I should be able to give you all a link for the actual events that Capital Factory.
That will be in the
posts up.
ATX something channel?
I think it's called, I have it somewhere. Where is it? Austin Tech Live.
Austin Tech Live, yeah.
Yeah.
Austin Tech Live.
Welcome in.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Josh, right?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'm Andres.
Andres? Nice to meet you.
We'll get started in a second. People typically take some time to like straighten in, so.
How many people do you have in the cohort?
So it depends. Like there were 30 people who actually filled out the application and registered, which was great. That was kind of the goal. But only about 10 people actually filled out the welcome form or the confirmation. So it's like scattered. You know, I don't know how many people are actually going to show up.
Coming in. Yeah, because I did mine like an hour ago. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, we don't know. We'll see how many people actually show up, and then also like because we're doing Capital Factory on the 16th floor.
Okay.
It takes people a minute to get up here.
Okay.
They pull up like
Yeah, it's parking.
Yeah. You park and then you come in and then it's like, okay, where do I go now? So
I think there might be a room down there whenever you first walk in. They got a bunch of beer sitting out.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, hold on.
That's where I want to go.
we're cool. Don't worry.
I think I belong to this group.
I do have a poster that I think I should hang up on the door for us.
Stepped in and said, like, introduced myself. What's the room?
Yeah.
What y'all doing here? Cool. Well, next time, could I grab one of those?
Yeah, definitely one of those brewskis, right?
Oh, listen.
John, did you get out of work from this?
Okay,
No,
we'll get
I
started
drove in
a
like
second.
2 hours ago. Just I've been working remote for like 9, 10 years.
Yeah,
But,
it's gonna be.
yeah, I knew it was gonna be crazy, so I tried to like beat the traffic. So I live up in Neander.
Oh, alright, that was like 2
Yeah.
hours ago, yeah.
Yeah, so but even I left at 4 and like even I was coming down hit Mopac,
Yeah.
I still hit traffic.
Yeah, it gets clogged. You hit 183, right? Come down there?
Oh,
Yeah, you said
this
Mopac,
part.
right?
Yeah. Well, I took 183 to Mopac.
Yeah.
Nah, it's water.
I was like, hey, Sheriff. Got a 6-0. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I took 183 down and then hit Mopac.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what yeah, I work, it's a hybrid schedule, but it's mostly remote, but yeah, I live down in Slaughter Day, so it's a closer commute here. So,
Oh,
yeah.
man, but I seen that Slaughter traffic on 35.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you're going 35, you don't even.
Yeah.
35, man.
Yeah, you get used to it. I mean, you know, I'll just speed limit. You know.
Yeah, you just hop in, off and on.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. I mean, sometimes you'll know that, okay, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be crappy, so I'll try to find another route, but yeah, 35 is the way to go.
I got a motorcycle because the traffic's so
Ah,
bad.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I'm sorry for
I seen this guy, like, just down the middle.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't do that.
I mean, it's legal, right?
Yeah, it is legal.
Yeah.
But there's people, probably like 3 times I've been chased, to try to like run me off the road and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
people like
legal to
guardians.
go on like the side lane kind of deal.
No, you can't go over there.
Okay.
You can't do the
No,
shoulders.
but you can go in between the lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But there's always somebody that thinks that they're the guardian of the lanes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that last week, me and my fiance were going up to Round Rock, and, you know, there's a guy with a blue motorcycle, which is like going through every lane. I'm like, alright, you know, hopefully this guy's
So you
safe.
get this one guy that just.
Yeah. I'm like, I mean, you know, I pray for this guy, hopefully he's okay. Then maybe like 2 minutes later, I see him on a fender bender with another car. I'm like, thank God this guy's up. I mean, it didn't seem
He was
bad.
fine though, right?
Yeah, he was fine.
Oh,
You know,
that's cool.
he stand up, and you know, I just saw him like, in a small accident, like, God, like, yeah.
No, if you're willing to go this or that, just go for it.
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. Let me see.
I'm using the Omni Guest right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Guest.
Yeah, I did the Capital Factory guest.
Yeah, Capital Factory Guest is.
Yeah, it wasn't letting me on, so I just tried something else, but maybe it'll work for you.
He's like, hey, come into my Wi-Fi, bro.
Got a virus for you.
Yeah, man.
We don't have the plugs on.
Oh, shit. What? I think there's one at the very end of your table.
Yeah, a little bit.
Welcome.
You got a bike, Andres?
A bike? No,
Yeah,
I
motorcycle?
want to. So I just got back from Asia. I was traveling, I was working remote. And so, you know, like Southeast Asia, everybody rides a motorbike. And I came back and I'm like, I gotta get one. And then my parents were like, do not get one. We will disown you.
You wanna die early.
You know,
Texas.
you start coming back and you start talking to your friends, and they're like, oh, I know a guy who crashed. I know a guy who crashed. And it just becomes kind of.
Or you know a
My
guy
buddy
that's.
just passed away over in Southeast Asia. He got, but it was a dump truck that took him out. Like, he wouldn't even ride. He was an excellent rider. He was like almost pro. Like BMX. So it was like just a freak event. But yeah, I feel that. Like over in Thailand, they're crazy. Or Southeast Asia, it's wild.
I got hit twice in one night. In
Oh,
Indonesia. It was crazy. But it was like, well, no, I got hit once. I crashed into a ditch and apparently threw off my alignment. So then I tried to just get to where I was going, which was the restaurant, because I was hungry. And then I was trying to turn, and traffic goes in the opposite direction, and everything was chaotic. My bike was out of alignment, and then this car just hits me in the front. And it literally, all it did was it knocked off my license plate and like a mirror.
Okay.
Which was
okay.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But it really threw me off.
Flip it like this.
No, yeah, I did a backflip
Yeah.
off it and landed slowly.
Landed on your feet. Some Jackie Chan stuff.
After that, I was very cautious
Yeah.
of where and when I ride. But yeah,
I had a little juicer. It got stolen back to back 2 nights in a row. The cops brought it back. I was living in San Antonio. They're like, so they brought it back one night, parked it. The ignition was messed up. So I was like, all right, nobody's gonna steal it again. Like, right back.
Yeah.
Another I had a low jack on it. Got it back, sold it. Sold it within like 4 days. I was like,
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Let's see, just heard something on Discord. Not too sure. But they can fend for themselves for a second. Oh, is this overkill?
Maybe, yeah, it's a small room.
I've been told that it's kind of a good idea because the stream online will like have a hard time picking up my voice.
Okay, I got you.
It can be iffy, so I think I'm gonna use it.
Alright.
But yeah, so my name is Andres. I am a senior software engineer with Circle Square Labs. We designed the curriculum and are the ones who are actually presenting the program, but it's also through Hispanic Hackers, which I just so happen to be the president of. So essentially, Hispanic Hackers is a nonprofit for Latinos in tech, but we're very inclusive. Anybody can join. Our goal is to democratize the tech industry because as a Latino, it can be hard, especially with family, etc. And we'll get more into that in a sec. But essentially, this bootcamp, this is the first meeting of our bootcamp. The topic is an introduction to brand generation and graphics. So we're really talking about what builds a brand, and in this meeting we're also going to get familiar with each other, get into some teams, and so that's kind of the goal of this program. So our program agenda for today, and we might run out of time, so we might have to cut some things out, but the goal is to have an introduction to our program, meet each other, kind of have a little bit of a mixer and an icebreaker, and then we're going to have a 10-minute break after that. After that, we are going to talk about what makes a brand effective, the impact of colors and fonts, as well as brand generation and media file types, so PNG versus WebP versus all these different terms. And then after that, just a couple startup hacks, a couple different things that I've explored as a founder and an owner of a business that really make running that business more efficient and lean, which is the goal when you start any project, whether it's actually a business or just a tech project in general. So after that, we're going to actually do team assignments and breakout, and we'll get more into that in a sec. So what is Code Foundry? Code Foundry is a free tech bootcamp. Essentially what we're doing is we want to get founders and engineers in the same room together and learning the same material, because I work as a contractor, and I've seen a lot of startups very poorly orchestrated, a lot of companies with technology that's just been mismanaged. Maybe they offshored without any resources, right? They didn't know how to start a company. They just said, hey, let's give this to some developers overseas. And the product turns out absolutely terrible. They use all the wrong frameworks. And then you talk to them, they hire me to fix it, and I'm like, okay, they used the wrong framework here. And the owner doesn't even know what a framework is. And so my goal is to be able to get everybody on the same page and off to a good start. When you are an engineer trying to get your first experiences, you want your first professional project. And then when you are a founder, you need to get that MVP launched. So our goal is also to take 2 projects all the ways through the MVP stage and have a product come out after these 16 weeks of the program, and so that the engineers and the developers who are working on these teams get to have that experience, that professional product that comes out, and the founders get to work on their MVPs. And that way everybody gets this opportunity to work together and collaborate, which is really what Hispanic Hackers is all about. So our missions and values, essentially our goal is to bring these innovators in and turn them into capable machines, right? We want everybody to come out confidently about what they're learning and what they want to build, whether it's just a project at home or it's a company. When it comes to this, we want there to be a large amount of collaboration between the cohort, so we're asking you all to work together. If you have your own personal project that you want to work on rather than a team project, you can totally do that. Just let me know, especially if you're going to attend regularly. There might be some people who aren't attending regularly. And then in terms of our other values, we want there to be practical learning, so working on these projects, community, and so that's one of it. Part of it is Hispanic Hackers is a community. We have a large network of over 2,500 engineers, developers, and entrepreneurs, and we meet up monthly or even weekly, in this case, as a team of innovators. So our goal is to foster that community. We also want there to be a level of mentorship. If you have questions that go beyond me, I know people who are experts in AI, in embedded systems, in telemetry, in cloud. So if there's a question that I don't know, I usually ask the people who I know that know, you know. So the goal is to have some level of mentorship, a lot of teamwork between us. In addition to that, adaptability, so tech is constantly changing. We want everybody understanding architecture, not just code. And a lot of boot camps I see fail at teaching architecture. They want to teach, hey, you can learn Tailwind and Swift and all of these languages right off the bat, and that's great, but there's also a really important thing, which is how do you actually build the product instead of heading in with your head cut off. So we're trying to address that. And then the last value that we have on there is integrity. We just want to keep open communication amongst the cohort. So if you have any concerns, questions, comments, please reach out to us. We're going to get everybody on our Discord channel eventually, which is basically where we're all going to communicate, whether you're in your teams or not. And if you prefer to work as a team, like over email or something else, feel free to do so. But that's where we'll be providing all of our resources, take-home videos, etc. So the way this bootcamp works is we are working on weekly tech topics. And so what that means is this event is about branding and logo generation, graphics. However, following events will be about how do we build a website, how do we prototype a website, how do we build an app prototype, how do we deploy that app, how do we write apps with Figma, React, all of these different, this stack that we've created, which will be JavaScript, Figma, React, and a couple other products. And so the idea is to be able to incrementally bring us to creating a website, creating a brand, creating a product. Who here is planning to stick with the program all the way through? Raise your hand. Okay, sweet. That's everybody. That's perfect. So what I was saying earlier is I had no clue who was going to be able to show up for this because I sent out the registration form and we had 30 people register, but then out of that we had about 10 people actually confirm. So if you haven't confirmed, we'll give you a chance to do that before we network. That'll give us basically your bio and your profile image, so we can maybe use that on our website or just, we want to show off who's in our bootcamp. And we're really excited about it. The bootcamp structure is essentially weekly meetings on every Monday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., just like this. However, only the third Monday of every month will be in person. So those will be your times to meet with your groups because we'll be assigning off into projects. Well, that'll be your time to do that in person, to get updated, connected, and we're going to bring in some experts in future meetings. For example, IP lawyers, graphics experts, marketers, etc., who will be able to come and bring additional expertise and talk with you after the meeting about your questions, concerns, thoughts. So these in-person meetings are crucial, and they'll be happening here at Capital Factory. Typically, they will be here in the Antone's room, but it might change, and if it does, we'll give you a shout out and let y'all know. So this in-person event is October 21st. The next one will be November 18th. Every other in-person event, or every other event will be online, and that online event will be held on our Discord, which we do have people on Discord right now. Shout out to them. Some of them can't actually make it to in-person meetings because they're out of the city, out of the country. Others of them just haven't been able to show up today, so they might get assigned to a team after this meeting. So that is subject to change. However, so if you are listening and on our Discord right now, please send me a message after this meeting
whether it is over email or over Discord. And I think I heard a message on here, I just want to check. Okay, there's just a thumbs up. I want to make sure that they can hear me okay, but it seems like they can. Is the audio weird? No? Okay, sweet. Just want to make sure that there's no dissonance. Okay, sweet. All good. So, one thing to note is December 23rd and 30th will be taken off, and that's just because of Christmas and New Year's Eve. So we want to give everybody time to enjoy the holidays, be with family, and I'm pretty sure that attendance would be low if we had those events. And I can't blame y'all, because I want to be with my family too. So we're going to take those days off, and then for reference, online meetings will be on Discord. If you aren't in time for a meeting, you can join us. I have it on here as Google Meet, but we're actually not going to be on Google Meet. We'll be over Discord. I realized Google Meet has a 1 hour cap on meetings. And then all these meetings will be recorded by Capital Factory, so they'll be available on the ATX Tech channel, I believe. I can send that later. So they are rewatchable. So Code Foundry is a free tech bootcamp, and it's put on by Hispanic Hackers. Hispanic Hackers, as I was saying, is a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Austin. We are a coalition of engineers, entrepreneurs, developers, and we meet up for monthly meetings to talk about our community. We do socials. We do, we have an AI tech talk tomorrow, hosted by a member. And so we do meetings like this periodically to just meet as a community, make it easier to connect, network, break into tech, and learn new things. Circle Square Labs is my personal company. I am a contractor that works on tech projects. And not just that, but I run a company where we are a coalition of engineers. So we manage and run projects for different startups, companies, etc. Our goal is to be able to create efficient products. So we're a full-service technology firm. We have experts in embedded systems, design, cloud, full stack, all of the above. And so we really try to bridge the gap by assigning projects to our contractors and managing the projects in-house, if that makes sense. And then the third sponsor of this program is Capital Factory. They're the sponsors of our location. We run as a meetup program through them, and so our shout out to them. We actually have a slide that we show at the end of the meetings, just giving them a shout out. But they are a co-working, and really they claim to be the startup capital of Texas, which when you look up startup, like the startup scene in Texas, you almost always get funneled over here. So it's pretty cool. I've had a co-working membership here, and it's always been great. So Capital Factory is pretty cool. It's a great place to start a startup.
There's the tech event next week too.
Yes, next week is like Tech Week, I think.
Yeah,
Startup Tech Week. And I'm really excited about that. I'm definitely going to be a participant.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, there's always networking events here too. So if you're looking to get connected with other engineers, mentors, etc., this is a cool place to be. A lot of funders and all of that, they all come through here, VCs. So yeah. So how does Code Foundry work? Essentially, our objective is to learn about the tech world, development principles, and how to cost effectively start a project. We're going to be collaborating as teams of engineers and founders, and we'll be having synchronous meetings like this every week to talk about the big topics. So this one's about branding, colors, etc. But next week's will be about how to get a web prototype and start building that website out. In addition to our synchronous meetings, which happen from 7 to 9 p.m., both online or in person, depending on the day, we will have 2 take-home videos per week. Those will get sent to you throughout the week and put on our Discord channel. Essentially, what those take-home videos do is they teach you about, the nitty-gritty, how do I program a website, or how do I implement an API or add AI to an application. So this week's take-home videos are how to design a brand and company formation principles. So all the tools that you kind of need to know to get your brand standards up and out there. And then next, the other asynchronous video will be about how to set up your computer for this program. So that is, downloading Python and JavaScript and React and all of those onto your computer so that you are ready to go when we actually get to those topics. In addition to that, we'll also present some free tools that are really helpful if you're starting a company or a project, like Fill Out, MailChimp's free platform. There's some ways to like hack it and get the most out of these products. So, in addition to that, we want everybody to work with their team on their own time. So, the goal is to watch these take-home videos and then work with your team on the project. Discuss with your team, so you'll have to discuss with your team your hours and your availability, but the goal is that everybody's working on a project and they can actually apply this in real time, because those projects are what's going to actually count when you leave this boot camp and you're trying to market yourself as a developer or start your own startup based off of the things that you've learned. This is your time to practice and actually, get a grasp of the concepts. Each participant can receive up to 75 minutes of free consultation time per month. That can be regarding your own project, your own thoughts and wants in the industry, whether you're looking for resources or you want to get connected. So the goal is I'm donating my time and even time of my network to be able to answer any questions that you have. So if you want to schedule a 75-minute consultation time or any time in between, you can stack them. Just reach out to me. I'm contactable from Hispanic Hackers board at gmail.com, and I'll be putting that on the Discord so that you all know. In addition to that, we are chatting over the Hispanic Hackers Discord channel. So that's kind of the goal. That's where we're going to announce resources, meetings, event changes, etc. So if you're following this event and you're planning to stick through with this program, this bootcamp, you should get on board with the Discord channel. And then we also already have a bunch of members who are in industry, so if you're looking for help, if you're looking for networking mentorship, that's where you go. So this week we're talking about design, brand, and company foundation tools. Next week we're talking about an intro to web design and development. And next week's meeting will be online on Discord. So don't show up here unless you want to hook up at the bottom of the Omni and just watch online. But I would say stay at home and be comfy. So this is a QR code for our Discord channel. If you are live, or actually all of y'all, I would recommend hopping on. Everybody who is watching online is already on there, so that is that. But this is a great time to introduce our Discord channel. Our Discord channel offers a bunch of different resources, again, mentors, networking abilities, and a place to ask questions if you run into a programming bug or a bunch of other things. This is your spot to actually address that. So we're excited about that. We recently moved from a Slack channel that had 500 people to this Discord channel, so it only has 50, 60 people on there. But our goal is to be able to grow back from that. I mentioned that Hispanic Hackers has 2,500 members. That's the count on our Meetup account. So we basically host Meetup meetings, and we've been doing this for 10 years. I've only been the president for about 2 of those. So we're trying to, I'm the one who actually turned Hispanic Hackers to a nonprofit, and our goal is to start being able to provide more resources than we've done before, like this bootcamp. So has everybody been able to scan the Discord channel? No? Yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
Sweet, no problem. Anybody else need it? Sounds good. Okay, so our outcomes for this program. Boy, keep doing that, stepping on this. There we go. So the key outcomes. There are a bunch of questions that people have when they start a project. And so some of the things that we want people to comfortably come out of this program understanding is what makes a brand effective, what is the difference between a developer and engineer, how do I estimate how much development costs, how for me, one of the issues coming into industry a while back was, how do I price myself as an engineer, right? How much do I ask my clients to pay me? In addition to that, we want to teach how do you start a lean startup? What is the difference between a programming language and a framework? What are the strengths and weaknesses of different software architectures? Why do they matter? How do I deploy an application to the cloud? How do I keep my AWS costs as low as possible? How do I lead a technical team with non-technical experience? So all of these we want to address, and these are like, really key issues that I've seen in the startup world, and issues that my mentors in my network have suggested that I bring up as well. So we are now going to get into meeting our cohort. If you're online, feel free to talk amongst yourselves and essentially jump off of chat, introduce yourselves. What we're going to do is we're going to divide up and introduce ourselves into two groups. But the first thing is, I want anybody who hasn't confirmed their attendance already, who is planning to attend monthly event or weekly events, please confirm your attendance by scanning this QR code. One thing that we're asking everybody to do is, confirming your attendance creates your profile, and you get to upload your bio and your image to that. And I think a lot of y'all already have. If you haven't, please do so now. But another thing that we want everybody to do is before each event, go ahead and mark your attendance on Meetup to the event. That will basically confirm your attendance so that we know who's going to be coming next this upcoming week and the week after. So please confirm at least like the week before. That would really help us out. So go ahead and scan that, and then I'm going to hand out everybody name badges, since it looks like we have enough people for this, and also a playing card. Go ahead and fill this out and then hand it around and pass it around, and then I always keep playing cards on hand. Yes.
Where can I find the restroom?
Oh, so the restroom is a good question. I believe it should be out this door and then to the left.
Okay.
And then there should be like a hall and it should be on either side.
Gotcha. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No problem. Okay, gotcha. We might have to talk about that. Okay, so gotcha. We're hoping to hook people up with your project.
This kind of should be a little bit more than like a project. It's like things.
Yeah, I
So
got you.
it's just like, my guy.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me think
Online letter.
about that.
Oh, it's just what, okay.
So, essentially what we're going to do is,
We are going to divide up based off of, I think the first one is your card color. So when you meet up with everybody in your card color, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give your name, what's your superpower, so what are you good at? And what are 3 things you would bring to a deserted island? This is just to get the conversation going. So everybody flip over your card and meet up with your card color group. And if y'all haven't gotten a name tag yet, grab one. I think it's getting passed around. And then for the people on Discord, please, you can go ahead and chat amongst yourselves. If not, just bear with us. This portion will take about 30 minutes. But if you are planning to,
Yeah, I think it's just color. I don't know what year you were born, but like I think the year I was born, it was really popular.
Oh, yeah, 97.
Oh, 97. Okay, I was 10 years earlier.
Yeah, we got
I guess we can just group together here.
That's what I was saying.
Red?
I don't know what they are.
Red? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're all red.
Oh, yeah, that was nice. Alright, cool.
Guess I'll go first. Josh, okay. Full stack, I do like Mern primarily. I wrote as well. So yeah, so a few apps, a few websites,
So guys, meet you.
and
Sal.
I'm trying to get away from WordPress and the front end side of things. Anyways, so full stack developer, been doing it for like 3 years, and things I was bring to an island would be probably like rope, Flint, and then
Learn something, it's like.
I don't remember the last thing. No, probably plastic, like tar. Yeah. Probably where I'm going.
Deserted island.
I don't know if we can explain why.
Some kind of music.
Oh, my superpower.
Yeah, some kind of music, some kind of knowledge.
Decent golf.
and-
I don't know.
I think you're more as far as technical skills go. Like
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, a peaceful party.
Software architect. We'll say. Yeah.
Alright, now you wanna go next?
Who's up next?
My name is Pedro. I've been programming for a long time, since 1986. It's a long time, and assembly and all those things. And I went into telecom and headed a division. But the last 10 years I went into alternative energy and RFID sensors and those kind of things. So even though I was full stack also, not that, but I went into that. So now I'm interested in taking this.
What's that? So you're okay?
So I see how the new frameworks can be applied to low level. I was disconnected from that for a long time. So I want to see if React can do all those things. Basically,
So, originally,
Going
I
Island.
started a job like 2 months ago, so I
what do
started
you
work
think?
as a digital design engineer
well,
with Realty. And yeah, it's pretty fun. I actually want to do engineering.
Oh my God,
I'm getting there.
was
But,
already-
the whole reason why I tried to do
For somebody to find me.
you know, I love learning, and you know, kind of helped me learn a
I
little bit
take
more
an
with
eye,
tech,
if I
and
need
have
to
to take
fish or
breaks.
something like that,
breaks,
I was one of the
like,
Dominican Republic Island, and
Yeah, 'cause I know there's HTML
fish
and JavaScript,
and
but
little things.
you know, again, I want to just point it out where,
maybe
hey, this is a good, really
something
good
that I
framework
can
you guys,
get water when
can
it
do.
rains,
and
so I can keep water and
hopefully
fish.
apply the same, not same, but you can
Those would
fire
be
and modify
good.
the framework
And,
at a project.
my
So, you know, that's why I kind of really intrigued me.
Is
And-
management.
Yeah.
Uh,
3 things that I'll take.
let's say,
Is there Adam?
being
Starlink.
product
I'll take myself a Starlink,
I
a water
like-
filtration
I love
device
that.
to like filter like my water. And
managing projects,
probably like a-
teams and things like that.
Probably like an iPod or something, but like with Wi-Fi, so I can connect my Starlink.
Just to make sure, like,
That'll help me.
you're supposed to do the intro, like, if we were to go to an island, 3
My
things,
name's
and
Lisa.
then,
I
well, like, our strength,
don't have
or
much
name,
background in a lot of
superpower,
this.
3 things you bring to an island.
I actually worked as a
Okay,
leasing
like,
agent in an
yeah.
apartment
Like,
complex
in a
full of
pragmatic,
different
like, I can,
people.
like,
It
I do an
kind of
Excel
helped
job,
me
or
here and
like,
there,
actual
and,
super, like,
I
Disney
mostly
Marvel
have
kind of
like
thing.
kind
No,
of
like your skill
design
set.
and
Oh,
stuff
okay,
like
okay,
that, like
gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, my
I
name's Alex.
work with a lot of local bands here in
I've
Austin,
been
creative minds,
casually
and
learning a
logos
little bit of
and
like
merch,
tech
and I just
here and
kinda
there on the
wanna
side,
get more into that creative
but
process
primarily I'm a
as
bartender.
students.
I have had experience
now
as
for
a
my third
cyber liability
admin,
engineer in Dallas,
books,
but with
and
the
then
layoffs that
some
happened,
a big thing, loads of energy drinks
didn't
and
do well with that.
and music for
So
sure.
yeah, back here, slowly building myself back up, and
Well, it sounds like everyone's
I
bringing
guess
music to the table.
kind of funny because you mentioned WordPress. That's actually what I'm trying to learn since you're like as related to it. But
we have
yeah, especially like WordPress, I
very
do like
new way
way
to
and
get
whatnot.
into music.
It's getting crazy.
Crazy.
But yeah, that's
a lot of people
me
want
so
jam,
far.
want to feel like rock stars.
If I could bring 3 things with me to an island, I guess one would be like a flare. Another would be maybe like a bowgun with a knife, or sorry, a bowgun with arrows, and hey, you know, hey, look, I can't do good with arrows, like a bow and arrows, so like, what if I need to hunt something here and there? But, I don't know, like, third thing, probably an iPod Nano. Yeah. But, gotta jam out. I guess my superpower in the technological aspect would be probably design. Yeah, that's what I feel most confident in. Yeah.
I'm also Alex. We didn't plan this. It's like, I mean, superpower technologically, I mean, I've been a software engineer for about like 10 years now. Like right now, primarily the back end is Golang. So like server-side development, Golang APIs on the cloud, cloud native. So I guess that's kind of like my skill set, superpower type thing. And then the desert island things, like someone in that group already said that my 3 things, which I thought was really funny. But it would be a Starlink, internet capable device, and some way to like filter water. Because I'm pretty sure like once I get those things set up, I'll just start tweeting, be like, save me, you know, it's like, and then I'd be able to drink water until hopefully someone got me. No, I know, it's like, and I was like, see, this is no, I'm gonna be the first one who said it in this room, but anyway.
It's used as a kind of guide you. It's like, oh, where am I going next? Where am I here? The instrument is just an expression of that.
All over the place.
It's like, oh, it's saxophone, there's a finger this way, or a bass this way, or trumpet this. So like my big philosophy is focus on fundamentals, theory.
I'm one of those jack of all trades, master of none, so I can't really pick one.
I actually am also a multi-instrumentalist. I started off with piano, went into flute, saxophone,
3 things I
and
would
then
take
I'm
for that
learning a
would
little
be
bit
a
more
knife,
bass right now,
a
so.
Bible.
No, definitely, it's truly the music theory, the foundation, and then once you just learning the fingerings and the tones going all the way through your head.
Yeah,
I'm not a full stack
There it
developer,
is.
although I did
I play once in a while, but I recently bought a planet, so I can play again.
JavaScript,
So yeah, I'm kind of having 4 or 5
and I
hours.
really like design, that's one of my
One classical guitar lesson, a class, and I made it to the end.
And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah, but
I
I love it.
do
I love
dog
hearing
sitting, I
it.
have my own dog sitting company that I do
Yeah.
full time right
You know,
now.
one thing, especially when I get an ensemble setting.
Skills,
you have like different, you got different,
I wanna
different
expand
things at the
it,
same time,
but
it's
I
like,
do wanna get
it's
into
all like this recipe for
technology.
success. Your ears is, basically your ears is basically everything in
And then
music
that
world. So.
company is my
Yeah, I like it, I miss it.
3 things that I would take to
I don't look forward to that. I've been joking around with my cousins.
It can
They're
be
going into
anything.
state finals and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. So
Oh, I
they're
love
doing
that.
ensembles and stuff like that and trying to learn everything. I was like, oh, you're in for a treat. This is gonna be great.
Yeah,
Pocket
last
knife.
week I went to Round Rock for the marching
And
competition that's there. I
You
miss
know,
it. It's
what
like,
are those things called?
lots of
Where they're like a
talented,
matchstick.
kids
It's
playing
like
at the
a
same time.
necklace and you pull it out and it creates a match.
So flare?
No, it's not a flare. It's like
So,
a
it's like
little
a flint,
tiny.
like a flint rock?
I guess so.
Your-
Yeah,
like
it's like a
your,
necklace. So
startup.
it's easy to carry.
Oh.
Is it how is it, how are you approaching that?
Whoops,
Star Wars,
Is it
Almost
just
there.
an instrument?
Yeah,
or
like
you
solar, you
back
might
it
be
or-
able to
Yeah,
wire
so
something,
which
maybe wire.
I figured depending on the boat,
Good question. We're not
have
focused on teaching the instrument
water
at all.
in there, like
It's
I,
all
I mean, what's of a boat? Is it just like a yacht and just like,
Just
I'm just gonna get on
Probably,
there?
yeah. I mean, if you can do anything, why not a yacht?
Yeah.
But like
You're sitting
our
there
approach was
castaway.
to minimize
Yeah.
it. If you want to learn
That's got
guitar,
Wilson
I
in
got the
it.
third one. Go find yourself a guitar teacher.
Yeah, there's-
Yeah.
Creating music. Okay, so you're
I almost said like a blow up
by year
too.
almost. By year, but also we have
Yeah, if it's
keyboard
live,
lights up
it's
based
easy to
on
capture water.
what the backing track's doing. So if it's like an E minor
So,
blues,
are y'all
E
working
minor
on the
note,
projects
keyboard
yourselves?
light up, and
So
that
they're
would be-
not, okay.
that would
Right
be
now, I'm
guide
just
books.
teaching myself like PHP, just trying to build like a mini website with that. Really trying to learn Laravel. I've heard a lot of great things about it, like as a framework.
And you just give you kind of like a
Yeah, it's just really use so much of it.
Pick a guitar hero.
But
But down.
So pretty much setting up PHP inside of VS Code and then doing like that.
But they're pretty wide.
Advanced custom fields for WordPress, is that what
Yeah,
you're doing?
yeah, yeah, basically I'm also learning like how to code with like the Gutenberg editor, but also trying to learn more of like the traditional one.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
good,
it's-
but go with easy. I went from doing the
Traditional thing,
yeah, and then a small part range.
Yeah.
On VS Code, and then,
We have WordPress, so it's like,
oh, here's all these rings.
So we'll have-
Yeah, it's still pretty clunky right now, but it's getting better with each update. But yeah, I feel like it still has a lot of potential, like, but at least it's a side gig. Yeah.
Get out of that and go to
Kinda when you're like,
Oh,
kinda like
really?
music, right, like
Cool.
when I started up a little piano, you have the software.
You do like Reloom, and then it gives you like wireframe, and
Import that over there.
designing with Figma, and then you can go to Webflow and push that out.
Yeah, you're getting, yeah, like, I know, like, for example, like,
The,
you recently did like a
software
song without
for
any sound, but then you
No,
like, zoom in to
Reload.
the side,
Okay, check out Reload.
you still got a
So you
pitch,
type
you
in
do that
a
one pitch,
business idea,
and
and
just
AI
create a
generates
whole
everything,
melody
gives you
on
a
it.
layout,
Oh,
it'll
okay,
give
cool.
you,
pretty much a website design.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just run with that.
Are y'all from Austin or?
I guess that would be my.
All right, y'all. We are going to switch off groups now. The goal is now we're grouping up as left brain versus right brain. So if you are left brain, meet up on the left side of the room. If you're right brain, move like brain meaning left brain meaning you are more into arithmetic, more into math, language, etc. Versus right brain being you are more of a creative, you do art, music, etc. So right brain, right side of the room, left brain, left side of the room.
Yeah, man.
Good job.
So where you from, man?
Thank you.
Yep. I'm from Texas, but I'm actually listening to the border on the radio. It's like 4 hours down south.
The colors like tripping, missing my
Oh,
eyes.
yeah.
There's over there, and the nerds over here.
Yeah.
Josh.
The anal retention.
Alex.
Nice to meet you guys.
Wait,
And Alex.
Lisa.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. What are y'all's creative ventures?
Right now, primarily, it's API development.
Okay.
Makes it all more geared more to the right.
Working for a startup right now, fully remotely, but
I've been
trying to see what else is out there.
experimenting with Blender as well.
Yeah.
everything.
I like to incorporate my own.
I was a front-end developer before that, so I know React will do that. But I mean, given the way
This is the
JavaScript
creative
is,
one?
Yeah.
I've been out for a few years. So
Yeah.
You were like, wait, no, that's not.
I understand what you're saying, but.
But no, it's becoming really popular.
Yeah, they're going. Yeah, yeah. Just on your code, and you basically do like data searching algorithms
bigger
like
softwares I
Go,
like to use or
with
programs.
Go programming.
I work with
It'll just transfer how to learn Go
local
and how to
CDNs
like.
creating
Yeah.
merch and logo designs and flyers and stuff like that.
No,
And I just
I
kind of
like
want
it
to
a
expand a little bit
lot.
more
Like, I
into
feel like
that.
it's
Yeah.
pretty easy to wrap your head
How'd you get
around.
into doing that?
Yeah.
But it-
My
it-
fiance is actually a part of the
Like,
music scene,
no, I'm
and
serious. It's like you
he's
write it and then most
like
of it's
9
compiled
different
down, it's
projects
pretty
and
informative relative
all
to,
Nice.
even like
all
lower
like
level
vast genres.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
get to meet a lot of different artists here, and at first it was just like a passion project. I just wanted to draw, and they liked my paintings, and so I just kind of
Yeah.
moved from there. So like I did several like flyers for like Swan Guys and
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Chess Club and
I don't have to worry about
and now I'm just like I would like to be a little bit more
resource
professional
things,
that even
off of
bigger
Yeah, just you bring
venues would
Yeah,
like to
but
go
I
ahead
mean,
and
like,
set
you're
me, I
using
could
like
just go
Numpy,
ahead and
right?
start my own.
Well, Pandas from
I've done Pandas.
everything.
I mostly program in R.
Yeah, see,
I've been slowly
What about you?
moving into
Like,
Python because
Yeah.
it's the beginning.
Oh, okay. I kind of do. I actually work with Dave as well. But I don't have. I'm not breaking into that, but
So I'm not-
my
I'm
founders
here.
don't have like money.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, like you know NumPy and
Over
Pandas
there,
are just like C
I
wrappers.
love it.
Yeah.
So it's like imagine if that was just pure Python. How long what you're doing?
Figuring out the money part.
So
you know.
Honestly,
there
right
are
now it's mainly just like
Yeah.
referrals, and then
Yeah,
I'm like
no, I mean,
whatever
like,
you
there's so
can,
many
and then
people
for
that
like
Python
merch,
wrappers, everything.
I think we're just gonna do like a portion
you
of
can
whatever
use C
is
without
sold,
using C, you know.
kind of make its way back to me, I guess.
Oh,
But I mean,
Cobol.
we'll see how
Yeah,
that.
I'm feeling for
This
them on my
is
project
kind of
on
like
it,
what
Cobol.
I'm hoping to get
Yeah.
from it as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's play guitar.
Yeah.
Couldn't you like move to like New York City and just pay bank by the
AI just.
But like you just be sitting in the money,
Yeah.
paying you money, it's like don't touch it or
Yeah.
break the
Put together something like building it out that way, instead of just putting everything out yourself.
Yeah, no, it's like
Aim for
Yeah.
members.
yeah, so it's like and like a lot of the people that do that or know that are like retiring or
Yeah.
not around anymore, so it's like what are they
Hang
gonna
on
do?
to twist. Done that.
No, yeah. But I've been I dabble in a little bit of like
Yeah.
more
I
drawing.
thought about
I really like
learning
using
to try to,
charcoal,
like,
but
behavior.
yeah, I don't really like
Yeah, no,
too much.
it is.
Although I've been wanting to get more into
Is it?
acrylics.
You say you
it's funny. I was gonna say I love charcoal, but I'm like it's so messy. But I'm over here, I'm a painter, so I'm like
Yeah, it's just like-
that really makes you.
Yeah,
But
it's
I feel like with paint, you can kind of like
IBM where was it Creative Cobol?
more and then
IBM.
It was a woman, actually.
Grace Hopper.
Oh, great.
That's
Great.
true.
Okay.
like
That
they
makes sense.
create shadings too, so then
Yeah.
and the dust.
Oh yeah, no, it
So
gets
it like
everywhere.
really gets
Yeah.
everywhere. But acrylic, you can kind of like
Mm.
dab it.
Oh, I
Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
have now designated paint shirts and pants now.
Yeah, I
because
started with
all of the
C++
clothes
in
are just
college
ruined
and
at this
then
point with my
after that,
acrylics.
never
Yeah.
used it again.
Heads
But
up,
then
anything that
my
acrylic
first job,
touches, you will never
2
get
years
off.
ago, with the
That's
disc.
Good to know.
If you do it
I
fast
actually
enough,
learned
and you
Python
use
by
like
scratch.
a conditioner, it'll.
So right now I just use
It
Python.
can. I've definitely stained a lot of stuff.
And a lot of
Into these
yeah,
days.
it's Python SQL because you know what we do is
Yeah, so my name's
we have
Augusto,
Airflow
and I'm
guys,
with
and we
a
have
company called
Jenkins
Adobe,
jobs,
where we
and we basically
use
just read the outputs
AI
of those and then
to
you
get
know,
you jamming
stuff in here.
with a bot on your phone.
Luckily,
Oh, nice.
And so it's
Don't have
a
it.
And you guys
low
are just
friction
supposed to
way
do
of getting
so.
through.
Well, like David Cloud or something.
yeah, so we use
And
GCP.
getting experience
So
by
because it's a real estate, so I work for a real estate company and get they recently migrated from AWS to GCP, and now everything's under GCP platform and
And I think that's
yeah,
something
they
that
just
a lot of people
Python
don't
heavy
experience until much
Both
later
ways,
on,
actually,
if
so.
they decide to stay with you, so why not
Yeah.
introduce that
I think the
concept
finance system is
immediately,
still on
so we
hold.
kind of have this bowling alley kind of guardrails of, well, you're gonna sound good if you just trust us and kind of let the AI, you know, let it, and the keyboards light up, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm
Well,
channel. Boom.
I started,
we're getting a lot of traction in
with assembly
things are
actually,
moving
with
quickly,
framework,
so.
at that time for point of sale devices.
Yeah, I used to be an engineer,
That time was not
but
basically IT, it was
now
X25,
doing the
the
CEO,
protocol.
the
And,
researchers.
then I
Kind of
did
different.
at a telecom company,
But fun.
what
I
it
like what, I love what we're doing.
there was no
That
cloud,
was the world.
maybe not.
But my job is very, very.
So, I had to do
You
like.
have,
training
are
system,
you
I call it
piano
basic
specifically, or do you?
training.
Yeah, so for what we're doing is piano specifically, but the concepts we teach are applicable for any instrument.
In New York,
It's
there
music
were
theory,
three companies
underneath
that
the music
sold a
theory is
lot of
what's
polycards.
training the AI models. And so,
That
once
was
you
on
understand
this,
that, once you start figuring out the music theory
then,
part of it, frankly, then that can be applied to any instrument. So what we're finding is that guitars are doing saxophones are doing. For the people that have no musical theory,
I was used for financial
I
applications.
kind of understand what they meant by this guitar chord arpeggio, yada yada yada, because piano is the easiest one to
And then
do.
I always like hardware.
I don't know if that answers your question.
I was looking at something recently, actually, it's like, it's a product similar to that, I don't know how much it actually teaches you how to type these up, show you over here.
So a lot of those, they're great, but they kind of do the same thing where it's like, oh, the kids are gonna light up, so you play a specific song, or you play a specific thing, and that's kind of the thesis that I am so against. Because I think you learn so much more when you are actually in the driver's seat and responsible for the actual location, as opposed to, oh, I'm gonna play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Alex is not giving a shit about Mary Had a Little Lamb. Alex doesn't sound like Alex. And so we give you the ability to do that.
What is your company, you got like a page?
Yeah, melodies.com. Because you guys signed up for a wait list to come to our investor talks right now.
I remember you were part of like a forum, like, you and another company were part of like a forum, like in,
Yeah, I think I told that, I talked to one about it.
Okay.
And so, we're very early, we started in July, but things are looking really quickly. It's a good problem to have, but the problem is it less.
That's a really cool concept.
Thank you.
But is the app already up and running, or is it still, oh no, you said there's a wait list.
There's a wait list, yes, we're on a wait list, we'll have,
It's really complicated.
it's one round,
Now we're playing AI
30 or 40 cell wait
so
list,
then
yeah.
that's
20, 30,
I have fun because I like.
close to 700 people on the wait list.
Yeah, the hype is there for sure.
Yeah, MELODISO.com.
Okay, everybody, we're going to take a 5-minute water break. Feel free to continue your conversations during that time, and then we'll meet back up and talk about the rest of the program.
Yeah, I was just get my master's this past year. MBA. No, it's math and science, but that's the program there. IT management.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was wondering, cause like, my coach is business,
yeah.
wasn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I didn't get the radius, was just like the cleanest thing I had.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, where, I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so now, at the middle school there, I had a lot of like tech into it. So, yeah, so it was a 10-month program. I highly recommend it. It was pretty good. They saw like web dev. It was very machine learning too. It was all like data science, build it with practice professional. We had pretty good. Yeah, the guy went to like MIT and Harvard. But I like it. It's a good experience.
We're trying to
so one of the things we did in the class is like actually did a count competition.
Would it also,
So, like,
how
they
would
give
it
us a
notation?
so he actually hosted his own count competition. So he gave us a data set Yeah, you guys are getting it, and okay, you need to create a create, not an algorithm, but you basically have to use machine learning techniques, and you use, regression, you have to use, I forget that one thing. But you use multiple techniques to help get a good score and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all these different options.
Yeah.
It's scary for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
But,
what we come up with this kind of
how was the data,
So,
like,
notify,
tabular?
Oh,
yeah. Was it
Very
visual?
It was tabular, like, but zero to one.
So it's just CSV.
Yeah, basically.
For sure.
Yeah, and then.
And like, it was already normalized?
No, so, yeah,
So it was dirty.
Yeah, so dirty, so yeah, so you have to clean it up,
Normalize it.
yeah, exactly, normalization, standardization, and just stuff like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, so, we got a collab notebook. No, I do submit it to collab, a notebook, and then I do those, you result. And then, okay, which thing is code that you get, like,
and like, it's a great use case for them, but like honestly, I'd rather have, and I want
What's the feeling like
imagine like the next generation of
like or something where it was like,
already
based on this is most likely
even as little bit, and understanding.
Not really. We did take a class, certificate analytics class, but we didn't have to do it. So our professor kind of assigned a project.
But like the
Kind of recommendation system,
your scales,
and you can do whatever you want.
why.
Beer,
Whereas if you understand why
movies
first,
and
then
stuff, or
like the scale,
yeah, so you call it topic modeling.
Yeah.
That's some data science.
And I feel like
It's alright, I like it. I think that's the most fascinating topic modeling today. With NFPK, tools. Basically, that's like the whole piece of AI.
because I got thrown into music by just jamming, and I was just like, oh, I gotta keep up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, that's how I do
Yeah. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
IT manager. Yeah. It's 10 months.
But
And it's yeah. So in and out. And no. Yeah. So that's only
It's like right in front of you.
So like. So yeah.
You're good.
Okay, everybody, if you could wrap up your discussions, we're going to start talking real quick. Oh, it seems like we just lost somebody, so actually continue your discussions. We'll meet up in a second.
Yeah. Funny story.
Oh yeah, by flying around. Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah, no, I don't like server. Wait, did you use like everything from the ground? Like your own Apache server, your own like?
No, I was starting to. Like I got to where I was doing it.
You probably
So much like my doing this.
Yeah.
Found the other thing was like Windows was having an issue on my system.
Don't look at it.
For some reason. So I
Find your way at 50.
on my own computer.
Yeah. But
Kind of like switched over.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah. So I started doing that.
The locals definitely simplifies things immensely.
Undergrad system engineering. Yeah. I went to. So you went to
That's where I
Anna?
was doing like file.
Oh, should go. Oh, the MIS.
A little bit further. I'm really just like, I went through and got it all, it's really what happens, building out the files.
Yeah.
That was your goal.
Yeah.
I just want to, I guess the long-term goal is to design agency, like hire people on too, and just create, like, focus on branding and like website for the
So if you can do design, you can get a.
How I'm doing, like,
There's something that's offered, you build out a bunch of essential templates.
Yeah.
You go copy them or whatever, change them up a little.
Yeah.
And then just tailor it.
Yeah.
and just go in there and launch that. It's like a product for whatever target market you're going.
Oh, yeah.
So I work
Seems like it seems like a hierarchy with like pricing,
and
you know, like.
Well, this is my thing.
get
It's
to
WordPress.
I would love to,
I don't think it's.
but no.
You have to
Yeah.
fucking.
I think it's
Sorry,
like-
you have to mess around. I do not like WordPress. You have to mess around
Yeah.
a lot with.
I did,
page
because
and all that.
I did want to do online learning, I'd rather have
Have to go back and mess around with all that.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
like
but,
going in and
but
having that, like, you're gonna have
because I
a
think I'm a
page or
hater.
whatever.
And
I don't know what I'm
so,
trying to do.
so here's a funny story. So like I got accepted, and then in between I got accepted and I started the program.
Businesses and larger businesses.
And my job was like, out, so I was like, okay.
The only reason why I'm like forcing myself to do work is because I want to get better at PhD.
Found my summer training classes. Right before, 1 week before the semester ended, I got fired from my job.
Oh yeah.
And I had to pay a house. I'm like, oh man.
Okay, it looks like we have everybody again, so we're gonna get back to the rest of today's presentation and our group work about branding.
Here.
Okay, cool. Check him out.
Alright, so I hope y'all enjoyed the social part. Like, I want to get to know y'all more. I'm really excited about the boot camp. So essentially, we are going to talk about what makes a brand effective. However, first, what I did want to do is I wanted to introduce Josh Fletcher. He's going to be one of the leaders of one of our projects. So Josh, do you want to come and talk about your project a little bit?
Sure. Just like come up there?
Yeah. You can just take the mic and because Discord is like right here, just
Speak over here.
Yeah, so the products, so I have a bunch of friends with kids, and this is pretty much a project that came to mind because they like children books and whatnot. One of them was having behavioral issues, and so I was like, oh, it'd be very cool if you could go in and create a book that would help guide the kids' development. So you go in and use AI to generate a book that you have like a child's favorite colors and just things that they like, and kind of give them a something to relate to in order to see that character and be like, oh, I can be this way, you know. So there's also an option to do coloring books as well. But yeah, I've kind of built out, I haven't built out that much. I've messed around with prompting, the hardest, anyways, so yeah, that's the short side of it. But yeah, I'm excited to work on it. It seems like it'll be a solid little project. There's similar projects out there that focus a lot on the creating a really fancy book, and they don't necessarily try to work on education and behavioral correction, I suppose. And yeah, it'll just be fun to see it come to fruition and give people the access to whatever books they really want right then and there that will help help their child sleep. Yeah, I gotta work on my pitch a little bit, but I hope y'all got it.
Gosh, yeah, so we're excited about the EdTech project that Josh is bringing to the table. And then we did have a project drop out last minute, so we are going to find an additional project. In that case, we were intending to kind of vote and allow the cohort to vote on which projects they wanted to work on, each member, today, but we're going to end up doing that a little bit later, so please stay tuned. That will all be announced on the Discord channel. So this is one of our projects, and we should have another one by the end of the week. So, today we are talking about what makes a brand effective. And so there's a lot of things that make a brand effective. This is kind of a compiled list of some of the top ones. A clear and consistent identity is really crucial to a brand. And that has to do mostly with, do you recognize it? Dunkin' Donuts, you know, or McDonald's. You see the golden arches and you know what it is. So you always want to have a clear and consistent brand identity. This has a lot to do with colors, fonts, the way that actual media is portrayed. And in addition, I recently saw a post on Instagram about how people were identifying the hamburgers in like different burger restaurants just by looking at the picture, which is crazy, but again, that is all has to do with the brand's identity. So in addition to that, having a strong emotional connection, so what are you selling? What is the emotion behind it? Unique value proposition, so what do you bring to the table that's unique for your product? What is your target audience and what are their goals? What are their passions? What are their needs? What are their pain points? That has to do with how you actually build out your brand, and you want to essentially pivot your brand around a specific audience that you're aiming to target. Adaptability and innovation, so that has to do with being able to adapt your brand for different user bases. So, you know, you have a target market, but how do you expand into other markets? Consistent delivery on brand promise. So essentially, when you list and state your values and your mission and your goals and what you're hoping to achieve with your product, you want to consistently be able to deliver on that. And a lot of that has to do with the portrayal of the brand over time. So, you know, not having negative press, having good press, etc., and building out the topics like SEO and other tech sides of that, having to do with how the brand is perceived online, what are the keywords that draws an audience to it, etc. And then community and engagement. So how do you foster community? How do you actually gain traction and check with your community on things that they need implemented into the app so that they can use it more efficiently or more productively? So the main target of this presentation has to do with brand identity. So we're talking about logo generation, fonts, the graphics, the actual tech content. The other content of what goes into a brand, I recommend reaching out to network experts in terms of what are the business components that need to go into a formal, you know, startup or project. But we are talking more about the marketing appeal and how do we design the tech components of this brand. So brand identity, it can be broken into several different parts. The main part that everybody sees at the face value is the signature, right? What makes a brand recognizable, including, you know, the name, the logo, the typography, the tagline, etc. What are the values of a brand? So is it family friendly? Is it professional only? Things like that. Your positioning as a brand is really important because this shows how you stand out to your competitors, against your competitors, and the content that defines the uniqueness of your brand. Visuals are also a very important part of brand identity because they are the, you know, colors, fonts, again, similar to the signature, the face value of the story that you're trying to portray. Story is the next one, and that's having to do with the narrative of the brand's origin and purpose. So where did this idea come from? What inspired it? You know, you hear about local coffee shop owners who were just looking for a quiet place to work and they decided to make their own. Or, you know, all these different companies that are story-based. Having a strong story gives a real sense of passion and importance to the brand. And then experience. How does the customer interact with the brand? So what platforms do they use? Are they interacting on social media? Are they interacting over a custom portal or your website? Or are they just on the app interface on their phone? Are they interacting with other users? All of these different experiences really tie into how a brand is pivoted and positioned. For example, you see all these dating apps that are basically showing this, you know, exciting, interactive, you meet with people, you talk to people, you engage with people, versus you have the Dunkin' Donuts app where you just show it to the guy up front and you're like, can I get my points? Different intentions based off of different experiences. So we're going to do an activity. Essentially, we are going to focus on Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts. So we're going to basically go through this list and we're going to talk about, what are their signatures, what's their value positioning, etc. So, signature. Brand-wise, what are the things that you notice about their logos and their signature as a company? Because I think everybody knows Dunkin' Donuts. I think everybody knows Starbucks. Raise your hand if you have like any just face value. What are some thoughts and perceptions?
So for Starbucks, it has a green and white coloring, which is very clean, very minimalistic. And then Dunkin', it has orange and pink, and that's very associated with, those people that like to put picture frames on every single piece of the wall, So it's kind of like an extra and more youthful vibe compared to Starbucks, which is very minimalistic and simple, but also sort of like a quiet, modern sort of vibe. Whenever Starbucks, because I was a barista at Starbucks for a couple of years, so I know a little bit more about it. But the main people that Starbucks wants to attract is older generations, because they have more time to spare at a cafe and more time to spend their money at the cafe. So that's why they try to go for that kind of demographic. And for a while they started to push more of a younger demographic once TikTok started with like the secret menu on TikTok and stuff. So they built the app to try to make it more like user friendly, so that younger generations could be like, oh, I have enough points for this. And so it really pushed for a new demographic to enter into their business. And I think Dunkin' is very focused on like a younger generation. They have collaborations with TikTokers and with creators and YouTubers, and Charlie D'Amelio, she's kind of become a face of Dunkin'. So I think that's what I see.
Nice. Okay, so that was very astute. Yes, great analysis on Starbucks. I also used to be a barista there, so I totally get it. Okay, so yeah, and I think that that's a really great representation of these two brands. You have their signature. Dunkin' has these really exciting colors that make them seem vibrant, energetic, and that's their whole thing. America runs on Dunkin', right? A lot of people recognize that slogan. Versus Starbucks has a more mature appeal. You can see the way that it has sharp edges. Sharp edges typically give the connotation of maturity, versus Dunkin' has its rounded edges, which are typically more childish or playful. So those are some things about the signature values. Does anybody want to kind of guess some values of Starbucks versus Dunkin'? We talked about how Starbucks kind of wants a more older target audience, but any thoughts?
And, well, this is just for Starbucks, right?
Starbucks or Dunkin'.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, former barista as well. There's a lot of us out there. So whenever I look at the Starbucks logo, as you were saying, like the sharp edges, the coloring, the minimalism involved, I look at it and I just think elegance, sophistication. Like they want to appeal to more of a, as Nancy was saying, like an older demographic. But yeah, again, just looking at face value, what I think they really value a lot is quality. Like, I don't go to Dunkin' and, expect, like, them to have some obscure Honduran coffee blend, Like, I just want my coffee and a donut and I need to go to work. But with Starbucks, you know, you can go in there, ask any barista, like, oh, what's this one like? Or like, what can you actually do with these flavors? It feels very personable. It feels like they want to connect. That's, I mean, I could go on, but that's the main point that I have.
Sweet. I'd like to also note that I feel like Dunkin's way more popular on the East Coast than it is here. Like Starbucks in Texas is where you go when you just want a quick coffee or you want to work somewhere, versus Dunkin' is like that, but in the East Coast a little bit more. So no hate on Dunkin', but I mean, I'm a barista. I'm a little bit brainwashed by Starbucks. Positioning, so we've talked about basically how these two brands kind of contrast. How Starbucks is targeting for a more mature audience, people who want to work in their cafes and kind of stay for a while, versus Dunkin' it's you come in and you get your drink and then you leave, right, for your donuts. In addition to that, Dunkin's has, you know, donuts, which is different from Starbucks. Starbucks has the more like finer pastries, if you want to call them that. Heated up from frozen goods, yes. But I don't want to get sued for defamation. But no, so essentially Dunkin's has a different value proposition because they have, you know, donuts, they have other things available. And then we were talking about visuals, the colors, the fonts, the rounded edges, the bright, the versus the more like simple and clean. In addition to that, I'm not too sure about their story, but I can feel like Dunkin' just gives off a more energetic feeling, right? The logo, the concept, everything. Even though they're selling you donuts, which kind of, I just want to sit down with a donut. I don't want to like go for a run after I eat a donut. Versus Starbucks, gives more of a chilled, professional, mature look. So that was kind of the goal of this activity. One thing I wanted to highlight is that consistency is key. I see a lot of companies start products and they don't kind of capitalize on, they don't set a standard for their brand, right? So they'll use random fonts in different places. And a lot of that happens when you just give an idea to like an offshore developer workshop without actually giving them the tools to actually create your product. So in terms of, this is the fonts that I use, these are the colors I use, this is how I display my logo. So consistency and standards are really key to creating a proper brand. So next we're going to talk about the impact of colors and fonts, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but essentially we're going to dive into that. Colors and fonts are essential for how the brand is perceived. Colors, for whatever reason, trigger little things in the back of our heads because we relate certain colors to certain things. Green is nature. It's you know, recycling and being environmentally friendly. It's being good to the earth, and almost education is based on that because we're being good to our children. We're being good to the people we're bringing up and trying to teach them the ways of the world, right? So world is just thought of in green a lot of times versus you know, red is a brighter, more accented color. It's typically warnings or fire, right? Kind of scary, but also alarming yet exciting. So there's a lot that color has to do with perception as well as fonts. Fonts subconsciously trigger a bunch of emotions that we don't even know they do because text is written in different fonts everywhere. And fonts are used specifically for different purposes. So there's a lot of different perceptions regarding these different tools, color and fonts. And there's a lot of cultural association, and we just talked about green for sustainability, red for urgency, and the fonts can be used to describe different emotions, playfulness, professionalism, creativity, passion, etc. So one thing that I literally looked up on Google conservation, and you can see how all of the images that come up are green. And if you can see properly, it's really small, but all of the fonts that are used in some of these different examples all look kind of handwritten and not goofy, but they're decorative, right? And that has to do a lot with how we see ecology as humans. We see it as something that we want to teach, and we use decorative fonts because we're typically trying to teach children very early on to respect the environment around them. And we're trying to just is something that we're very like comfortable with. We don't have to be very formal about ecology because everybody knows that the environment is key to our sustainability as humans. So all of these examples kind of just show that green is the color and that there's more of a relaxed feeling around environmental and conservation topics. So essentially, color and fonts can help shape the brand personality of your company or your project. For example, using a bold modern font paired with like vibrant colors, kind of like Duncan's, can convey energy, while a classic font with more muted colors feels more sophisticated. So these are two examples here. We have the New York Times versus Duncan. You can see Duncan's website is kind of energetic, it's kind of bold. You use a lot of, they have brown for just kind of pulling together their whole idea of coffee and food. We relate food and coffee a lot to the color brown, versus we have the New York Times, which is very muted, very kind of black and white, and using black is typically more serious when it comes to branding. In addition to that, we have visuals and that drive the tone and voice of the company. So whether you're talking about handwritten fonts, which are more friendly and approachable, like we were talking about environmental sustainability, versus colors that are softer pastel, that's all very friendly, versus sharp fonts like the fonts that are used in New York Times, etc. Those tend to have more of an intense appeal, more formal. So it really depends. So this is some examples here. You have Tesla with the very bold logo and font there. It's very modern. It's supposed to be kind of, in the future. And then we have Coca-Cola with the old-timey, kind of old school. It feels very friendly, very family friendly, and both are clean logos. Both are beautiful, but they both give different ideas. And as you can notice, both of them use the color red. Does anybody have any comments on that? Why they think they use the color red? It pops. Yeah, exactly. What Alex said, it pops. And more so, we feel like red just conveys energy. So red, orange, yellow, those warmer colors convey a lot of energy, and both Tesla and Coca-Cola are selling energy, just in different forms. So that's kind of the idea there. This image is kind of hard to see on the screen, but essentially these are some of the ways that colors, feel and are portrayed. Gray is more of a balance. Black is more credible and powerful and professional, versus you have red, which is bold, youthful, exciting. Orange is more confidence, but also it's not so bold as red. It's more tame. Yellow is optimistic, bright, cheery. Green is more peaceful, is growth oriented, has to do with health a lot of times. And then blue is, has to do with trust, dependability. A lot of times that's used in education. Police use blue for a reason, because they want there to be trust and dependability and strength, and that's what they're trying to convey. And then purple is more wise, creative, imaginative. So it's really interesting how these colors really make people feel subconsciously. And then there's also your target demographic. Typically, when targeting men, marketing typically uses the colors blue, green, and black, while when targeting women, it's typically blue, purple, and green, which are shown down here. And it really depends on your target demographic. Younger generations want to see more of these colors, versus older generations tend to look for this. It just depends on how old you are. One thing that I always know, I worked on a dating app for a while, and that dating app, I was trying to help position it for the correct market appeal. And what I asked the founder is, what is your target demographic? Do you want somebody who's young, or do you want somebody who's older? Do you want more mature dating, or do you want more excitement dating, right? And the reason I ask this is because Tinder, Bumble, some of those really big, exciting platforms that are used by younger people a lot for more casual relationships, those apps all use the colors red, orange, and yellow. versus you have apps like Hinge or Plenty of Fish or older apps that are used by people who want to date more seriously sometimes, or people who are older generations. They use colors like black, blue, and purple, and so those colors subconsciously affect us when we're looking at our products. One thing that's important to mention are color formats. So color formats used in the tech industry are typically red, green, and blue, formatted in different ways. Here we have an example of our RGB kind of split where we have a list of 3 different values. Black is formed by 000, red is 255, 00, and essentially these values range from 0 to 255 each. So 255 in the red category with 0 and 0 in the blue and green in the blue category just create red. Versus if we just put 255 in the green category, it'll just produce green. And if we just put 255 in the blue category, it'll just produce blue. Cyan is a combination of red and green versus, or yellow is a combination of red and green versus cyan is green and blue. And then white is all 3 of them being at their maximum. And so essentially these RGB values, which are typically listed in a comma array like this, can be formatted into hexadecimal format, where FF represents 255 and 00 represents 0. So here you can see FF0000 is red because it has 255 to 00. And so hexadecimal is just basically a format that you can take binary or integers into that simplifies it into a smaller code. So instead of having 3 digits here, we have 2 digits, and it is just FF, right, to represent one of our colors that create this color composite. So essentially hexadecimal color codes are really important. That's typically what we use in industry for design. We want to say, okay, this is the exact color that we're looking at. That color red up there is this hexadecimal code. We're not just talking about red, we're talking about pound sign FF, CD13, right? So it's how we specify exactly what color we want. These colors show up kind of differently on different screens, but they're all generally pretty uniform. So another thing to mention are color gradients. Color gradients are really helpful when you're creating a product because they can give a more modern and exciting feel. Down here we can show Instagram and Tinder. Both of these logos have a very exciting feel to them, mostly because they're using colors like pink, red, orange, and yellow. But not just that, they give kind of a modern look to them because they use these gradients really effectively. And these gradients are contrasted with contrasting solid regions. For example, the Instagram logo has this solid white in it, and the Tinder logo is surrounded by a solid color. So that contrast really makes the solid colors pop. And so gradients can evoke varying emotions, provide visual depth. For example, this presentation itself has a gradient as a background, and the reason why I put that there is because I wanted to convey visual depth across the page. I wanted us to be looking from right to left, and items that are over here are more easily distinguishable on the right side than they are on the left side. So it really brings the eye forward. It also gives a more dynamic feel to the presentation. So typefaces are the next part of this, which are essentially collections of characters in a specific design style. Typefaces are what you consider, Arial or Times New Roman, the ones that we use in our Google Docs or Word documents every day. Typefaces can all convey certain feelings, but moreover, fonts convey the feeling because fonts have to do with a specific typeface in a specific weight, width, and style. So weight meaning bold versus normal versus light. For example, if we made that Dunkin's logo that we saw that was bold earlier and we turned it into light form where it was very skinny and thin, it would change the appeal completely. So fonts really change the look of the typeface. but the typeface gives the overall feel of, you know, and we'll go into that in a sec. Font weight has a lot to do with it, and font size also, how we align font sizes across a page. So this is some examples of font weight. When we're using technology and we're writing code, 100 is considered thin, font weight of 200 is considered extra light, 300 is light, 400 is regular, all the ways up to black, which is 900. Typically people use regular, light, and bold in their fonts, but some fonts give a whole array of sizes. It really just depends on the typeface that you're using. So that's really helpful when we're designing and we're choosing our fonts, is to know what weights are available. So there are a couple different types of typefaces. There is serif. Serif looks like this. Times New Roman and Georgia are both examples. They're the ones that have the curly bits on the end. And the reason they have these curly bits is that it helps guide the reader's attention across the text. And these are typically used in formats of like newspapers or articles or professional documents, because it gives a more professional appeal. And then we have sans serif. Sans serif is more like these fonts up here, which are Arial, Helvetica, Bravado, Inter, and Montserrat. These give a more modern look, and they're more commonly used in apps because they are able to fit the screen a little bit better, whether you are looking on a phone or on your computer. So they are able to format better for web and different apps formats. And then we have monospace. Monospace is interesting because it looks kind of typewriter-y. The concept behind monospace is that every single character occupies the same amount of space. So it's easy to track changes based off of the spacing, which is why we use monospace in coding. If you look at any code editor, it's usually using like Courier or another monospace font, because we are able to see that every character that lines up, and we're able to line them up, which really helps us look at the document as a whole when it comes to code. And then finally, there are decorative fonts. Decorative fonts like Lobster, Comic Sans, Pacifico, and Impact really draw the attention and convey a very single emotion, sometimes multiple, but like when you look at Impact, that's bold, it's big, it's in your face. Lobster and Pacifico are more playful. Instagram's font, I believe, is one of these two, I forget which. I think it's Pacifico. So all of these fonts really convey a feeling. A lot of times very playful or very immediate. And then there are a couple different, so when you're looking at typefaces and fonts, you're looking at open source fonts versus licensed fonts. Licensed fonts, of course, cost, and so you have to pay the artist who created them. The nice thing about that is not everybody pays, so they're more unique and more likely to have brand recognition. Versus if you use an open source font, open source fonts are like Helvetica or Arial, or fonts that are used by everybody. And so these are fonts that typically allow you to customize. They usually have a public license, and they can be used broadly across any kind of scope without having to pay for them. So I really like open source fonts just because they're free and they're easily integratable into any project. However, licensed fonts will give brand appeal and brand recognition. There are a couple different font file types. I'm just going to briefly run through them. True type font is your pretty standard font type, versus open type is created more in the fact that it allows artists who create these fonts to provide multilingual differences. For example, in Spanish we have all those accents. We have the ñ, we have the accented on the acute accent, and so these accents don't have to be, you can trade off different languages. Open type is a more evolved version of true type. And then in addition to that, we have web open font format. This is great for web use because it's lightweight. Websites and web browsers have to load all of their design content from the cloud. And so when you're loading fonts, we want it to be as efficient as possible because we want that site to load as efficiently and quick as possible. So web open font formats are really great. And then we have scalable vector graphics. Scalable vector graphics are essentially code editable graphics. And so you can create fonts in SVG format, and that's how you typically create them in the get-go, and then you transfer them into true type format glyphs. So we're going to talk more about scalable vector graphics when we're talking about logo design, etc. And so now we're talking about brand generation, which is really the key of this whole lesson. And so when it comes to brand generation, we essentially want to ask ourselves, what is the primary purpose of the brand? What is our ideal customer, so what's our target market? What are their demographics, interests and pain points? What values do we want our brand to represent? And what personality traits? You know, are we excitable? Are we being playful? Are we almost having like a childish sense? Are we being very professional? Are we trying to attract people with confidence? So all that we want to be able to assess with our brand. How do we differentiate ourselves in the market? So what is the value proposition? And then in addition to that, we want to look at how is our brand perceived? Again, playful, serious, advanced, refined. And what is the story behind our brand? So a little bit about Hispanic hackers, we use this Jaguar logo. And we had a designer actually come up with this, and he did an amazing job because the idea behind the Jaguar logo and Hispanic hackers is that we're trying to democratize tech for the Latino community. We're an inclusive organization, but we are specifically a Latino and Hispanic serving organization. And the Jaguar plays a really important role, especially in Aztec and Mayan culture. In Aztec culture, there was a whole group of Aztecans who would essentially had the Jaguar crest or the Jaguar symbol, and they were the top dogs, they were the warriors, they had specific rights and also specific responsibilities as part of society. And the idea was that we wanted a very bold and confident look to our brand. We wanted something that was going to go after opportunity, go after success. And I feel like this logo does a great job in portraying it because the Jaguar is bold, it's bright, and it's using those bright colors that you see typically in Latino like advertisement and culture. But it looks kind of scary, but it also is smiling at the same time. And I was really excited when I saw this because the first mock-up was kind of scary. It was very jaggedy. He kind of looked upset, like he hated himself and the world around him. And I was like, no, this is not it. We're more open than that. We want excitement. We want to be happy. We want to be smiling. So that's how we pivoted our appeal here. And then we're using bright colors. We're using bright fonts, big fonts, and clean fonts because at the end of the day, we are engineers, professionals, and founders. Deciding on a name is important for your company. You want something that has relevance and reflects the product that you're offering. You also want a brand name that is memorable. Hispanic hackers is memorable. Everybody immediately thinks that we hack like computers. And we don't just do that. We do a lot of other things, but it gets our foot in the door with these technical conversations. We're automatically, technical people and kind of the nerds in the room. In addition to that, we want something that's simple, easy to pronounce, and can just kind of roll off the tongue, both when you're speaking it, so you want to tell somebody Hispanic hackers, and you know what you're saying. And you want to be able to convey it in writing and then remember how to write it, not have any spelling mistakes. Marketability is important. There was a period where I wanted to label something as the tech tribe, and the word tribe has kind of a poor connotation. Not a poor connotation, but it can be a taboo. I was trying to market something called Tech Tribe with another group, and the group was Latino oriented, and they said, look, we can't support something that has the word tribe in it because tribe is really affiliated specifically with people who are of native descent, and it can even have negative connotations if we use it inappropriately. And so yes, these taboos exist, and unfortunately, and both fortunately, because we are respecting people when we do this, we have to kind of pivot our brand around that and choose an appropriate name. So being able to identify name taboos, etc., that's important. Another thing is how does your brand translate in other languages? I have a Japanese friend who wrote a series of books called Annie Moko, and if you speak Spanish, you know that moko is referring to boogers. And so when my family saw that, we were just kind of joking about it and laughing because her brand didn't really apply well in another language. So things like that. online availability is very important. That has to do with, you know, your domain. So most companies are going to have a website. You want to check if your brand name is going to be available on a domain. So Hispanic Hackers was available, but you're wanting to look for, you know, .coms or .orgs or .nets. Essentially, we'll talk about this later, but website extensions start with .com being the most popular and seeming the most professional, and then you have .org, which is only for organizations. .net seem like you're kind of the runt of the litter, but it's not bad. It's just everybody aims for the .org, .com, and these days we have .o, we have .dev, which refers to development. We have like all these different tech terms. We have .co, which is company, typically referred to, and that seems more proper. And so these online domains are really important. You can look on a host website like Namecheap to find them and kind of assess your brand name. In addition to that, social media presence is important, especially if you're going to market on social media. So is your handle available on social media? That's something that everybody kind of should know if you're going to put TikTok videos out there or Instagram posts. And then legal considerations. Of course, some names are trademarked. If you have a company with a name, then you can have a name ownership or domain ownership in a specific region like Texas, versus you can also file for a patent and trademark system through the trademark system, a actual trademark name, right? So you can't just start a company called Dunkin' Donuts because that's reserved. So checking whether or not your name is reserved is important. So when you're building your brand, you want to define your mission and target audience first. Come up with a brand name around that, so what appeals to that market and that audience, and then create a color palette around really how you want that brand to feel. That can be using a tool called Coolers. We'll go over that in one of the take-home videos this week, because it's a really great tool. Essentially allows you to go through color palettes pretty easily. I've used it for a variety of projects. And then the next step is deciding on a font. I use something like Google Fonts, or I have an Adobe subscription, so I also use Adobe Fonts. And those sites give a lot of access to open source fonts, which is great because they're cheap. You don't have to pay for anything, and you can almost even sometimes edit them depending on the license. However, there are other domain providers which actually provide at a cost, right? In addition to that, designing a logo is crucial because that's how your brand is going to be seen and perceived. And then that should be done using, you know, shapes, icons, symbols that resonate with your audience. For Hispanic Hackers, we chose a jaguar. For, you know, a coffee company, a lot of people put a cup of coffee or like a little roasted espresso bean, and that is like the symbol for that company. And so one of the important things is to produce several logo variations for different use cases, and we'll talk about that next. And then compiling your brand components into a documented set of brand standards is essential, because now you can give these brand standards to, say, an offshore company or an onshore development company. You can give them to your, you know, sales department. You can give them to your marketing team. And so having a set of brand standards is really important, and it's not so hard if you set up your company right. If you set up your company in the wrong way and you have mismatched everything, it's going to take a lot more time to go back and edit everything and standardize it. So that's part of how you reduce the tech debt in the long run. So this is an example of how our company, Hispanic Hackers, our nonprofit, created different logo formats for different use cases. I usually go for a icon format, a below text format, and then a right side text format for different use cases. So in this case, we have our icon of our Jaguar. We have it in two different formats. We have it in kind of a standard yellow, so that it's the colors coordinate very well, and then we have kind of the more fancy shadow version. And then here we have our under text portion. Another thing that's interesting and should be observed is how does your logo translate into black and white if you're printing to black and white. In this case, we just have a simple black and white version. Sometimes when you convert it to black and white, it'll turn into different shades of black and white, grayscale. And that can be nice, but a lot of times it's really nice to just have the bold black on feel and look. In addition to that, we have our right side, which again, we've kind of formatted from this icon, and we've pulled the text to the right. And so that's really useful for like website headers and different things like that. Also, you know, business cards, etc. When you want the actual name of the company to stand out, versus this version up here is better for like t-shirts because you want the actual logo and icon, the symbol, to stand out. So one of our last topics is media file types. Essentially, when we're talking about media, we're looking at PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, and we see these, well, the debate is GIF or GIF. I say GIF. Who stands with me? GIF.
GIF.
All of y'all who say GIF, y'all are just haters. Essentially, we're looking at the size and the compression value of the image. So PNGs are really great for high quality images, and you can add transparency to them. They use lossless compression, which means that no details are lost when they compress the image. However, JPEG format are better for like photographs and complex images, and better for like web photos or social media images because they use lossy compression. Some artifacts could be lost in compression, but it makes it smaller and easier to load. So that's why it's better for web photos and social media images that are going to be pulled from an online database. GIFs or GIFs are best for simple animations or low color images. They're typically more like primal, more less sophisticated, but they support animations, and the reason they're less sophisticated is that they have to account for multiple frames of the animation, so they try to compress as much as possible. My favorite media file type is WebP because you can convert it with a online conversion converter, or you can, yeah, I think that's pretty much how you export to WebP. So you can convert online, and what this does is it's lossy and lossless compression, but it supports transparency and animations, and essentially it's just an extremely small file type for your images. So if you, a lot of times people have issues with their SEO on their websites because it'll take a while for their page to load. And what Google does is when Google is looking at your website and deciding how to rank your website online, it'll say how long does it take for this web page to load, and it'll rank slower web pages lower. And so consequentially, if you are using a WebP format for your media and you're loading images faster, your website will appear higher on the Google rankings for SEO. And we'll talk about SEO at a later date, in a later topic, but it is very important to have a high ranking website on Google or other browsers. So WebP is very helpful for that. SVGs are also very helpful for web media because they are actually coded vector images. So instead of having all these pixels, they just have specific vector points that connect the image. And so typically logos are created using SVG format, and then they're converted into PNG and JPEG formats for other use cases. So SVG is kind of very basic. It's great because you can edit it with code, and then there are programs that you can use to build them. And we have a tutorial that will come out later this week on how to create vector images with Inkscape, which is a free program that's basically the same thing as Illustrator. So Adobe Illustrator has a free counterpart called Inkscape. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and we're kind of rushing here because we have 10 minutes, are startup hacks. So the basics of creating a startup or a startup project, whether you want to create it, turn it into a company, or whether you just want it to be open source, is to start it with the goal of basically being as cost effective as possible, right? So that means starting small and testing early, checking with your user groups as soon as possible to make sure that you are on the right track, because if you get skewed, you're going to cause a lot of issues later down the line. So keeping a lot of customer feedback, that's really key. The goal is to create a minimum viable product, which basically is your MVP, right? And the goal there is to create a product that just is enough to be able to send out into the world. And whether that's looking for investments, or whether it's the first version of your product that you're putting open source, or you're using yourself, you just want to get that first product out there. So part of the goal of this program is to think with an MVP mind, think what are the needs of our immediate project, and how do we execute that step by step, right? Just so we can get that first idea out there. In addition to that, you want to focus on problem solving, make sure that you are solving a problem that's actually needed in a unique way, or in a way that's going to get your foot into the door in terms of the market that you're trying to access. So having a unique value proposition is really important. In addition to that, measuring your data and measuring, the usage of your product, whether when you're beta testing, or the amount of storage you're using, or when it comes to AWS, measuring the things that impact your AWS costs. And that's something that we're going to talk when we talk about deployment, is how do we minimize those AWS costs, because that's one of the biggest problems that people have when they deploy a project right away, is they just get bombed with poor AWS costs because of poor planning. So keeping costs low is the essence of starting a startup. So some startup hacks. Instead of Photoshop, let's try Canva or Photopea. Photopea is an online Photoshop-like editor. It basically looks just like Photoshop, and you can do most of the same things. Canva is a great platform for creating marketing content and media. Things like this presentation could be made in Canva. I'm actually using Figma's free version. Instead of Adobe Illustrator, try Inkscape. Inkscape is a free platform for creating SVGs, and it works in basically the same way. It has a little bit of a tackier interface, but who cares when you're actually creating things for free instead of paying for a Adobe trial or Adobe subscription. Here are some other startup options for when you're looking at designing your company. You have Coolers, which helps you find your color palette. This is SVG Viewer, which allows you to edit SVGs, and it also has a huge library of icons, so you don't have to hire a designer to design them themselves, right? Because our goal is to be able to keep this as cost effective as possible, which means postponing the need for a designer. So SVG Viewer. This is the logo for Fillout. Fillout is what I use to build all of the forms for Hispanic hackers. So all those forms that y'all went through, the registration, the welcome form, all of those were built with the Fillout free subscription, which is great because it's free and you can hook it up to your Google account and have all of your users and all of the people who fill out your form, all of them go through and it goes into Google Sheets documents. You can have it trigger an email, you can have it do a bunch of different things. Another example is of a free platform is Undraw, which is this graphic here, some of the graphics that we've seen, like this one up here. Undraw is really great because it gives you just completely free SVG graphics that are really cool to accent your presentations with. They're simple, they're pretty, and they're really useful when you're coming up with your pitch deck or your website even. And then next to that is Google Fonts, which is for finding free open source fonts. There are so many other free resources, and if you have questions about this, feel free to schedule time with me or ask on the Discord. I will be posting a list of free resources on the Discord soon. And so essentially at this point we're going to break out into our teams, but because we're postponing that, we will be assigning teams later on in the week. I'll send out a form and asking everybody to kind of vote for what they want to get assigned to, and then based off of the skill set and what the team needs, we'll go ahead and move from there. It's actually kind of better that it happened this way because there's some thought that gets put into placing people on teams. So in that case, if you have a project that you're interested in, like presenting and bringing to the table, because we're looking for 2 projects based off of the size of our cohort right now. We have one, which is Josh's project for AI-driven ed tech and children's literature, and then we're looking for another project. So if you have a project idea, feel free to message me either privately on Discord or email at hispanichackersboard.com or no, at gmail.com, and we'll basically take your idea into consideration. And meanwhile, if you have a project that you want to pursue yourself, feel free to go ahead and do that, but just let me know in advance so I don't add you to a project. So that is what we're doing there. I want to give a shout out to Capital Factory for letting us stay here. They are the center of gravity for entrepreneurs in Texas. And they're the ones who have been a very kind host to us. This beautiful room, all these great materials and resources, and they're also streaming our video for us online, which is great. So we do have people who can go and watch online, and then it's going to get posted up later. And so, essentially, the take-home videos will come out on Tuesday and Thursday. The first one will be for setting up your Creator Suite. What programming languages are you going to use, frameworks, etc. We're basically going to walk you through downloading everything that you need to download, getting signed up for the things you need to get signed up for. And if you don't want to sign up immediately but want to keep it on hand, that video will be there for you in the Discord channel for when you're ready to set up the things that you need to set up. The second take-home video will come out on Thursday, and that's creating a brand with Inkscape and other free applications. So in that, we'll give an overview of kind of some of these free platforms, how to create your logo, how to use coolers to identify colors. Another thing that I'll be sharing is a free application that I created with Python last night. It's an adaptation of another program that I use very frequently for designing. Essentially, say you get your colors from coolers, right? And you have your color palette. This program will then take your color palette and it will produce all the shades you need to hand off to a designer. So it'll give you all these different shades of your colors and create a full color palette for your design standards. And that comes out in both hexadecimal and RGB format, so it's easy for a designer to read and take away from. So that'll be coming out soon. It'll probably be coming out with that Thursday video. Or be downloaded in the Tuesday video, we'll see. And then in addition to that, the goal for this week in terms of projects, right now it's just going to speed to assign y'all to projects. Again, if you want to work on your own, please email me or message me on Discord, but the goal is to assign everybody. Before y'all leave, I'm going to have y'all write your names down for me just so I can take attendance. And then after we assign teams, the goal will be to discuss and share your brand, logo, slogan, mission, and values. So if you have to create that, that will be up to the project leaders to orchestrate. And then writing a set of brand standards with kind of the details that we've mentioned here, which are defining your mission, target audience, the brand name, the color palette, primary font and secondary font, logo, and the brand standards. So that's kind of the goal for this week. We're going to kind of get off to a ramping up start. So if it starts off a little slow, I promise we'll be full steam ahead soon. But yeah, so we should get out of here because housekeeping is about to come, or the cleaners are. So if you could please push all of your chairs in, and in addition to that, bring your cards up here if you brought a card. If you didn't come up here anyways, if you haven't already brought your card up, I need everybody's names in my notebook so that I can take attendance. And if you're in the Discord chat, just feel free to write your name in the Discord chat for the channel.
Well, I grew up in Round Rock. Yeah. I get that a lot. Apparently I have a lot of doppelgangers. Yeah. Now you also from Austin, or?
Does anybody know where the name tags are?
Born in Austin, grew up in Round Rock. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Oh man, you'd be surprised how many people like say that like Round Rock is not part of Austin or Pflugerville or all that. But these are from people from Dallas, so it's like, you know, really cool. Go like North Central and went up to the south. So yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. Hell of a drive to me.
Does anybody need parking validation?
Oh.
If you need parking validation, come over here. We have vouchers. Another thing to note is that parking on the street is free on Mondays, I believe, after 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's Mondays and Tuesdays, but I guess
Yeah.
I guess we only care about Mondays, right?
yeah, Mondays and Tuesdays. Yes,
Well, next week, if you're coming to that, you might wanna, prepare
So
a
I think
little
the
bit.
parking garage, this is like a.
Yeah, the Tech Week.
Oh,
Apple Factory Tech Week.
I know. I didn't hear about that until like
but, like,
today.
if you
Someone
want
still
to
buy
see the
tickets.
future, just
Well,
park on the street.
I worked during the day, and I didn't take PTO or
Yeah, if you
anything.
can find one, but it's pretty actually,
I mean,
it's
yeah.
so hard, I've never had.
Yeah, like I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm
Very
off
like
this
you
week,
might
like right
have
now. Like I'm pretty sure my manager would freak out. So.
Yeah.
So no, I mean like yeah, but
There are some like after
well, I was
5 to 10, 9 or 10.
I mean, if that's true, then I'll go to those.
Yeah, those are
but it seemed like a lot of the heavy content stuff was like during the day, like workshops and things like that. But no, if there's like after workday stuff, I'll definitely go. Like, is it like down here? Like, where is it going to be hosted?
all throughout this building, and then they go to bars around
We're gonna
town.
assign the
So
projects
Okay, got it,
later
yeah.
on in the week.
yeah, I think you can go on there and just like copy the menu or
But,
copy
when the
the
project
itinerary or schedule.
No, for sure. No, it's like I was just looking at it and like I was just seeing like, oh, this is all during the day.
There's no
I
actual
didn't
homework
see
other
that
than
there was
watching
after
the take home
stuff.
videos.
But like if there is, I'll definitely crash it.
Okay, cool.
Like it'll be like,
It's worth it.
what
It's gotta be people.
like what workshops are you in? I was like, no, none of them. But I'm here now.
Well, I don't think they're really talking about that. They're just like, oh, what's your idea? What do you do? Blah blah blah. That's what I've always. That's what it's always been like. Whenever I went. I think
Okay, so you've gone before?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like an every year around this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Wait another year.
I can't believe I haven't heard
It's really nice meeting you.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised too.
See you guys, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Take care.
You been going on for a long time. I was surprised I missed out on multiple years. Like I like tech and yeah. Didn't really take the dive in sales beforehand. It was like, yeah. Finally did the leap after selling a crappy product. I was like, dude, I could build this. Like this is terrible. So
What tech do you use for the, or like what do you use, like a specific AI model or?